Welcome to Greenable Woodbridge. I am your host, Carolyn Ehrlich. Today we're going to be talking with Jerry Volpe, and he is our consultant for purchasing. And he is the kind of guy who has discovered the way to turn a 24-hour day into 36 hours. Because with all of the different hats that you wear, Jerry, you must have extended your day. So you help us, you're a consultant when we do our purchasing, and you help many, many other towns and counties. You also used to be the teacher at Rutgers for anybody who wanted to learn anything about government, finance, and purchasing. So I can't imagine why you had to give that up with all the towns you've picked up. But I think one of the best things we've ever done is to bring you on board because you have such a huge knowledge of purchasing and a huge knowledge of being sustainable, and you brought that to us. And a whole lot of new ideas. And people might be scratching their head now and saying, well, why is Jerry on the Greenable Woodbridge show? And you're here because we talk about buy local, we talk about green purchasing, and and sustainability, and you kind of bring us down the road in all those areas. But the new and exciting thing that you have brought to Woodbridge Township and to all of our businesses in Woodbridge is the co-op. So start off by explaining what that is and how that's working.
That's absolutely awesome. And thank you so much for having me here. It's one of my greatest pleasures of coming to work in Woodbridge and assisting and helping and answering questions and hopefully contributing in some small way because you have a phenomenal team that's been assembled here under the leadership of Mayor McCormick and obviously yourself. Things that get accomplished here, I am amazed on a day-to-day basis. Even coming to the studio today, I'm amazed at
it's an amazing place.
What a great place this is. So let's talk a little bit about the cooperative that we've just created, and we just recently received approval from the state of New Jersey and I'm so excited about that. We petitioned the state. There's a program or a series of programs for cooperative purchasing entities to be created within governmental units. Township of Woodbridge has created the Woodbridge Cooperative. What that means is that any eligible member, which could be any public entity in New Jersey, whether it be a library, a housing authority, a fire district, another municipality, any governmental entity can join our cooperative. There's some paperwork, of course, that has to be filled out, resolution and different contracts have to be entered into. What we do at Woodbridge is when we're soliciting our goods and services, our commodities that have been approved by the state for solicitation in our co-op. It's not an automatic. We have to go through a process. Once those commodities have been identified, and presently we have around 15 of them that the state has approved, and we hope that that will grow eventually to hundreds of commodities. Yep. But right now what will happen is, and we've had about, in addition to those 14 commodities, we've had about a dozen municipalities in the area that have already passed resolutions and joined our co-op. So, and we take those, we submit them to the state, they have to be approved. So once that whole process is done, the part that I'm really excited about is bringing it to the vendors, particularly the local vendors here in the township of Woodbridge. We're looking to do an outreach program. As we sit here today, we were working this morning on putting together an updated mailing that's going to be going out to not only existing vendors, but some identified new vendors that are predominantly in the greater Woodbridge area.
That's great.
So as we do that, we're hoping that we'll get updated email addresses, business addresses, key contact people. Mm-hmm. We want to get the message out that if you have a good or a service, any commodity that you think the township or its member municipalities may be interested in, please reach out to us. they could reach out directly to Jennifer Burns at it's jennifer.burns@twp.woodbridge.njus or myself, jerry.volpe@twp.woodbridge.njus. We will gladly answer any calls. We'll gladly discuss what this is about. And if we can develop our vendor relations, it's a very critical component to what we do in the procurement end.
That's terrific. So let me give you some local examples. And
sure.
So thinking of Ford's, they have a business that's their exterminators. Would they be something that would be on here?
Yes. What we could do is exterminating services as an example. We could add that commodity, submit it to the state, request that commodity be included. Then once it's approved, do a formal solicitation in the form of a bid. And when we submit that specification and we advertise it like a regular bid, what would happen is we would reach out to the local vendors and say, hey, by the way, we got a bid coming up.
Wow.
If you're interested in submitting, please do so. Now, it's of course still very competitive. There's no guarantee that we can give it to a local business.
You have a foot in the door that you never had before.
Exactly.
To a great opportunity.
Exactly.
And that's what we're giving our
businesses. And we're very much interested in enhancing our minority business enterprises, as the so-called MBEs, our WBEs, our women business enterprises, and our SBEs, our small business enterprises.
Right.
So as you know, there's set-asides and other programs that we want to enhance what we're already doing. We've identified through key demographic data in the various communities the makeup of existing vendors in our database, and we found some rather interesting statistics, which got me really excited.
Sounds good, yes.
So as we started going through it, we realized that there's clusters of vendors in Avenel, for example, in Ford's, for example, and there were different kinds of businesses. So we want to enhance that. We're not happy with 10 or 11 small businesses. We want to see that number grow. So if that grows, it will enhance what we're all trying to do as a team here in Woodbridge, because it's not about me, it's about Woodbridge.
The whole community.
It's about the community.
And everybody's a part of the community,
and
whether you're a resident or a business.
Correct.
This is,
correct.
This is going to be terrific.
It's going to take time, but we're building it and we're taking an aggressive stance. So, working very closely with Jennifer, I have to tell you.
Yeah, we have to talk about Jennifer a little bit.
She's really out there. She's hungry for doing the right thing, and being that she's a resident of Woodbridge, that adds to it, and it helps tremendously. As we were talking about before the show came on, the buy-in factor is critical. So we have a team in place now, and it's not only purchasing, because we work closely with all of our departments. We're seeing that there's a lot of departments that are directors that are coming to us and saying, hey, there's a local business and we'd like to do business with them. Can we solicit quotes? Can we reach out to them? How do we get them on your bidders list? These kinds of things. So we're working very, very hard to achieve that goal.
Right.
And it's tied in some respect, to sustainability and green procurement.
Exactly. So so talk about green procurement a little bit.
All right, so we're going there. For example, most commodities, believe it or not, have, some of them, not all of them, have the ability for us to procure different than conventional methodology. Most entities are locked into, when they procure a good or service, they think that they have to buy it at the lowest price.
This is one of the first things you taught me when you got here,
but
it's not
true.
Right.
All right. We have to procure, especially quotes. Quotes and there's other thresholds that we use that are subject to price and other factors. So you don't necessarily have to go with the lowest price in a quote. So if we're below the bid threshold and we're quoting, I don't want to get too technical for the audience that may be watching, but based on the various thresholds, if we're below the quote threshold or at the quote threshold, when we're obtaining quotes, we evaluate those quotations based upon price and other factors. So for example, if we can buy a commodity from a local vendor and it's shelf ready and it's right around the corner, that has to be factored in our decision making as to whether we're going to buy it online and it's going to be ordered and it may take a day or 2 days or shipping or handling charges. Those factors all have to come into play when we're making the decision. The other big thing...
But for the same commodity, it might cost a little bit more, but if you're buying it locally where you don't have to pay a lot of money for the transportation of that product...
Exactly.
That's another factor.
Exactly.
And that's what gets our small businesses competitive.
And we're trying to convey that message to our businesses in the township. We want them to know, hey, we want to stimulate the economy as well.
Right.
I mean, we're about helping each other. While there is no prohibition or there's no rule that says that we can implement, you must buy in the township, we're opening it up, making it competitive and saying, if you're interested and you have a product, by all means, put in for it.
We actually can't say that we want it to
Correct.
has to be a local.
You cannot mandate.
Cannot say that.
So,
but we can do everything
but we can encourage and we can
yes.
advise our member entities, that the vendors anyway that are submitting, and say, listen, just don't think that it's a bid where it has to go to both the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. That's not the basis for awarding a quote.
Right.
Quotes are based on price and other factors. So that's a big thing. The other thing with green procurement that we have to look at and talk about sometimes and educate our end users and the vendors that want to do business with us is life cycle costs.
Yes.
So we have to talk about that a little
yes.
bit. And if I may, I'll just explain it as briefly as I can. When we procure a product, and the product that I like to use is, you could buy a cleaning solution already made in a bottle, ready to go. Or you can buy a 50-gallon drum or a 5-gallon pail of a concentrate and then mix it with water or whatever else you might have to mix it with, and then form and make your own smaller bottles for use that are environmentally friendly. And they do not affect in a negative way the health of a human being.
Right.
So when we're looking at that, you could buy a name brand commodity that's already pre-bottled and pre-packaged, which might sound like and look like it costs less than buying the 50-gallon drum, but you got to look at the life cycle of the product. So if you're buying the drum and you're diluting it with water and you're making your own, and that product has a lesser impact on the health of the human beings, then you're in a situation where you have to factor all of that into the decision making of what you're buying. And with life cycle costs, sometimes you got to also think about the disposal of the product, the impact on the waste that is being produced, whether or not that waste is recyclable or not, and a multitude of other factors that go into that decision. So again, cheap, lowest cost isn't always the answer. And the misconception amongst the business community is that it's a public agency, you have to go with the cheapest price. That's simply not true. You do have to go with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, but even that doesn't mean the cheapest price. It means they have to be both responsible and responsive.
Right.
So those factors all come in. So we're excited about doing green purchasing.
And if our policies say that we have to take certain elements into consideration, whether you can recycle it,
Correct.
how it was manufactured, how it's the chain, the supply chain, all of those things, then we have to take those things into consideration.
And that's one of the reasons why I was at a seminar a week and a half ago with Jennifer, and as the presenter from Sustainable New Jersey was talking, on one of the slides presented was there's only one municipality in the entire state of New Jersey that has achieved Gold Star status. And guess who that might be?
Would
the
be us.
Township of Woodbridge. So
and it really is the township.
It's so
it's
exciting.
No one person, it's all of us.
But it's so exciting to be a part of that, and,
right.
and to see a community who really gets it and understands it. And as you know, I work with a lot of governmental entities throughout the state.
Right.
And green purchasing is not an easy subject matter that directors and government officials easily buy into. So you've done a magnificent job of getting them to buy into that here in the township. And things like LED lighting, the lighting in this studio.
Yep.
All right.
And I'm sure they took into consideration when they bought it, a regular light bulb might have been cheaper, but they're not going to have to replace these for probably, what, another 8 to 10 years?
So as a result, what is the cheaper bulb? The ones we did. But a lot of people say, well, you're laying out more cash up front. More money is being spent. That's true. But you have to look at the estimated useful life.
And that's something for people, homeowners, too. You also don't have to pay for somebody to go up there and change those bulbs. Yes.
And then there's tax credits, and there's a whole bunch of other incentives for the homeowner side.
Homeowners, not us.
But not us. But we're doing a lot of things with our solar panels, for example, and with LED lighting, and with commodities that we're procuring, even vehicles, and adding the additives that go into the fuel that we're using. There's so many different avenues and ways, and once you start getting into the mindset of how does this impact the health, public safety, the life cycle cost, the environment, once you start thinking about that, it really becomes a no-brainer. I had the privilege of working rather closely with one of the doctors down at the university at Rutgers who wrote the book on green procurement, and he taught me quite a bit. Dr. Kevin Lyons, I don't know if you know Kevin or not.
Yes, yeah.
And Kevin explained, and it was so difficult in the beginning, and I'm going back a number of years ago when he first wrote about it, and then he started bringing the rest of us into the fold. And I was having a very, very difficult time of having the local public contracts law be in sync with what we do on the green procurement side. But once you get into it and you understand it, it's really a no-brainer.
It makes sense.
And it does make sense.
It really does. And it makes sense here in government, and it makes sense at home, too.
All the way around.
Everywhere, everything. I mean, like, a personal example is I changed my landscaper this year. And my past one, he put any chemicals on my lawn that, you know, he could because he thought his job was to make me have the greenest lawn. I said to the new person, I said, I don't want a chemical anywhere near my house. You know, my lawn, nowhere. My lawn looks better now than it did before, and I'm paying less.
And it's all
and
green
that's
product.
And, you know, I wanted to put a sign in front of my house. There are no chemicals on this lawn.
That's a perfect example.
Yep.
I'm starting to see municipalities now
that are starting
on our parks that are doing that with chemicals that we're procuring. We're seeing it with some municipalities are going to electric vehicles. Some municipalities are doing all kinds of creative things. One of our housing authorities recently upgraded all of its LED lighting on its exterior. And all of these things are, there's programs and there's grant money available. And again, we're dealing with small businesses that provide these services and goods.
We have a number of solar businesses right here in town.
Right in the
and we've got to reach out to them and get them in our co-op. And not only can we buy from them, but going back to where we all started, the other towns that sign up for this.
Well, that's the exciting part. All of the towns have different demographics, different makeups. So when we were reaching out to the communities, we were like, you know, follow what we're doing in Woodbridge. Woodbridge is a good example of how to do things the right way. There's so many good things going on in Woodbridge. And if you look at, by way of example, what we're doing at the community center, for example, and other big departments in the police department, what we're doing at the club, what we're doing with the ice rinks. All of these things that we're doing, we are looking at it from the procurement end of how do we enhance it so that when we're designing, when the engineers are designing these facilities, what a flavor towards going green with lighting and with other HVAC systems, et cetera. So all of these things are being looked at and being worked on. And what's really exciting to me is not so much, while it's exciting what we're doing in Woodbridge, it's more exciting to me of the vendors that are located within the township that there's so many opportunities for them. And we want them to know that they should reach out to us so that we can assist them in showing them when bids come out, getting them on our mailing list, showing them even on items that we're quoting. And then, you know, one of the things we're thinking about down the road is possibly having a vendor showcase where we invite them, have them come in and invite local vendors and just walk them through the process. So there's a lot of things on the horizon that we're thinking about, but we're trying to be proactive.
So one of the things I think that scares our businesses is when we go out with an RFP and we're looking for bids, they first of all don't know to look on our website to see what's there and then how to respond. So how do we, so not everything will be on the co-op yet, but there might be things that they go, oh, I'm not in the co-op yet, but I could respond to that. How do we get them to
Well, one of the
answer?
exciting things that we're getting ready to roll out, you heard about it the other day, is we're going to be going to an e-procurement platform in the very near future. What we're going to be doing with that is the state recently memorialized through new regulations the emergency regs that the governor had put through as a result of COVID-19. They're now a part of the new rules that are applicable. So e-procurement is coming. And what we're going to be doing is showing vendors through a platform that you don't need to come in and you have to have the sealed package and bring it to the front door. It's all going to be done electronically. It will be still locked and it'll still be secured, but it will be secured through the software. Excuse me. So as we roll out this program, there's going to be a learning curve, not only for us, but there's also going to be a learning curve for our vendors. So one of the things that from the day that I've arrived here in the township that I've tried to do is encourage vendors that get frustrated with the onerous papers.
It is onerous, yes.
Is to say it's not as bad as it looks. Call us. We will be happy to walk you through the pages. We'll be happy to show you what you need to sign. We'll answer any of your questions. We're not just going to give you a package and say fill out the papers and send them in. So we want to help vendors to learn the process. It's intimidating and it's scary.
And the first time you do it, it's extremely, but once you've done it and you've got all the certificates and everything filled out, it becomes much easier.
We had a vendor last week call us and say, I've never heard of this business registration certificate. And if I have to pay for it, I don't really want to do this. And we're like, no, you don't have to pay for it, it's free. Well, I went online and a company wants to charge me. No. Here's the link. Go to this page. We'll stay on the phone. We'll walk you through it and fill out your name, your taxpayer ID number, your address, and you'll get your certificate online. And within minutes, they had their certificate and said, oh my God, now I'm going to submit a bid. So we want to help them.
Yes.
We don't want there to be a wall between the vendor and the municipality. We want there to be an interaction. There's a very big component of purchasing called vendor relations that a lot of municipalities are afraid to grab it and run with it. They feel like it would be giving an unfair advantage. But if you do it the right way,
you're not.
They're
just
not.
Helping
You're
people.
Simply showing them the process to go through.
And I think as we sum this up a bit, that it's not just vendor relations, we're talking about community relations now.
Big time.
Because we want all of our businesses to become one of our vendors and to, you know, get on our co-op, respond to our RFPs as we put them out there. And it's just a matter of us doing, as you said earlier, the outreach.
Outreach is critical, and again, I have to give credit where credit is due. Mayor McCormick's leadership in running this municipality and giving me the opportunity to be a very small part of it is something that I'm so excited about. And you know, I hear it from vendors, and I hear it from all the people that we interact with in the purchasing department. And they're so excited that, you know, you have Mayor McCormick at the helm running the ship and wanting to do the right thing by all the local businesses as well. So I'm really excited about that.
Yep. And so I imagine that we're going to be doing stuff out online, and this will be on TV. So everybody who's watching it, who's got a business in town,
get in touch with us.
Get in touch with us. Spread the word. Let everybody know that we're open for business.
Absolutely. And if I could give those email addresses again, it's jennifer.burns at twp.woodbridge.njus and or Jerry with a J .volpe, VOLPE, at twp.woodbridgenj.us. Send us your emails. We'll be happy to respond. You can call the office. If you don't get a live person, please leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you. But we are excited about it, and there's a lot of good things about to happen here.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I'm going to say to you, as I say to the audience, thank you for watching Greenable Woodbridge and for being part of the change and part of the excitement.